I'm Ajay Tegala. I'm a wildlife ranger and communicator with the National Trust here at Wicken Fen in Cambridgeshire. People think that my job involves being outside in the sunshine every day, which on days like this, it can be like that. But of course there's all weathers and there's jobs that need to be done throughout all times of the year. So with rangering specifically at Wicken, there's a lot of scrub clearance in the winter, and people think, oh, you'll be planting trees to help the environment. But actually, because we're an undrained fen here, a really unique rare habitat, it's important that we don't get too overgrown with vegetation. Then in the summertime, it's kind of keeping the paths open and accessible for people, because visitors are at the heart of the reserve here, as well as about protecting the unique wildlife, of which there's so many species. It's a place that's for everybody to enjoy, and we're really passionate in the National Trust about connecting people to nature. So there's a lot of engagement, and I've kind of ended up going into very much a communication side of things as well. So as well as being out in the middle of nowhere with nobody around, I'm actually working with school children, with my colleagues, to give walks, to share information on social media. That's a big side of it as well. So it's a broad role. It's all encompassing actually. My role's incredibly rewarding because some of my favourite things are just the random wildlife encounters that happen. You can spend hours surveying things, watching things, but sometimes just in the course of your work out doing something potentially quite mundane, like repairing a fence, something exciting might fly past. So for example, we've got nesting marsh harriers, bitterns and other rare species that you just catch a glimpse of, and our job is to find out where they're nesting, how many pairs there are. So coordinating volunteers is a big part, working as a team. We couldn't achieve what we do without the support of so many wonderful volunteers. So there's the admin side of kind of organising these surveys that all adds up to working together and achieving as much as we can in an ever-changing situation where suddenly it might start blowing a hoolie and the rain buckets down. In the nature world, we can sometimes be in a bubble and think that everybody knows why it's important, but there's so many people that have no experience of nature. So it's really important that we engage with people and give them a positive connection and kind of inspire that curiosity in the natural world. These are one of my favourite plants because they look just like a stinging nettle, but they're actually the fen nettle, which has evolved to not have a sting. I did a degree at Nottingham-Trent University in countryside management, and then I did lots and lots more volunteering, which it took a long time. I got various voluntary experiences, but then also I got a seasonal job for about 5 or 6 months as a ranger on the Norfolk coast actually, and then I got another one, and then eventually I got a permanent full-time role with the National Trust. So that kind of volunteering with different organisations, but being faithful to one and building up those experiences, those contacts, that's what led me to paving the way to slowly but surely, with a determined effort, building up those experiences and eventually securing a dream job, which I've been very fortunate to do. I talk very positively about things because it's always worked out fine in the end, but obviously you remember those times where you don't know how long it's going to be till you get a job, and I think those are sort of uncertain times when you're not earning very much. While I was doing fantastic enjoyable things volunteering, I was doing things like bar work, really, clearing tables, pot washing, that kind of stuff, but also actually ended up doing a lot of customer service roles, working in shops, and that in a strange way, although it was just to pay the bills, it was beneficial because it was customer facing. And that really helped me to basically acquire different skills that all kind of made me more skilled as an individual and more employable. So that was a key kind of thing as to how I did it. I took the university route to being a ranger, but there's lots of other ways of doing it, and doing apprenticeships is a key thing. You don't necessarily need to have a degree to work as a ranger. A lot of the roles you can do practical apprenticeships, and that's a great way, especially if you can get one where you get a small income while you're trained on the job. And a lot of the conservation organisations do that, the National Trust do, and other organisations too, and that's a really great way to get into the field of conservation in a very practical route. Within the wider organisational structure of the National Trust, Ranger's quite a fundamental job. It's sort of that key role on the ground that helps look after this important place, which is what the organisation's all about. It's all about protecting these special spaces for future generations and for the wildlife here. So it's a really on the ground at the kind of the thin end of the wedge doing that work. And then alongside that, it feeds into all the other roles here, whether it be the national specialists that are informing us and helping advise us, and then also working with the education groups, the visitor welcome teams, helping to spread our knowledge of the site and what's good to see when, and what's the sensitive areas at certain times of year, and that all gets spread along. So we're kind of that voice on the ground that's informing all the other elements of the organisation, and so it's a pretty central role really in the National Trust. So we work with the other organisations, the RSPB, the Wildlife Trusts. We have regular meetings and catch-ups with those organisations, and also our local neighbours as well, landowners, farmers, and that's really key. And I think that's something that's really evolved over the last sort of decade or so, is that there used to be competition historically between reserves, being a sort of a key nature reserve, Wick and Fen, quite an iconic place. You know, historically maybe there was that sense of competition, but actually it's very much about collaboration. That's widely accepted and widely known that that's how we succeed, because wildlife doesn't know boundaries. We need to do things on a global scale really, and so international links, and actually working with the local university, with Cambridge, they have students from all over the world that come here and come and visit Wicken, and we share ideas with them and tap into their knowledge, and that's how we move forward. A big part of being a ranger, as well as doing positive work for wildlife, is talking about it. And I was working on the Norfolk coast where we had a large seal rookery, a breeding colony that was growing and growing. And so we got media attention, news interviews, local radio, and that became something that I sort of took to, actually. It was something that I enjoyed doing. And that led to another kind of branch of work, working in wildlife communication, in particular presenting. I ended up doing some nature presenting work on television, and now I work in podcasts for the National Trust, the Wild Tales podcast, but also I got into writing as well. So that communication, communicating messages and sharing nature enthusiasm is something that just happened naturally and evolved, and it's something I hadn't necessarily thought about when I started out, but it became something that I've really seen the value in, and I've really enjoyed doing more of. So I'm happy to say I'm now a published author as well as a ranger. As much as it is tempting sometimes just to focus on one thing, and that can be really valuable if it's something really important, it's never just about one thing. There's always so many things that feed together, and so yeah, being able to experiment and try different things has really given me some surprises and sort of taught me that I've been capable of things that I didn't even imagine I was, and that's always really rewarding. My top 3 tips for somebody wanting to get into conservation. Firstly, volunteering. You can't go wrong by getting those experiences, making contacts, and that will give you the skills that you need to go forward. Secondly, I would say push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. Go into different directions, and don't be afraid to do things that you might not normally feel comfortable with. It might just give you an opportunity to develop skills that will be really useful. And thirdly, I would say notice things. I've always got my binoculars with me. Keep an eye out on wildlife and pay attention to the natural world, and that sort of connection and knowledge will really set you in the right direction as well.